Welcome to Energy Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday the 18th of April comes to you from London. And we start by looking at exchange traded products, crude oil, some currencies, and then European OTC products running on the Trayport dual screen into Updater. So we start with Brent crude, and we see here that we are just hitting some resistance really. 57.50 was the level we needed to break. We found resistance about 56.50. It's as if we've found support in the cloud. Now we're finding resistance in the cloud, and we are back bearish below the short-term cloud. We do have a downside target now, 53.74. That's about 3% downside. So that's really quite key. Does this become a new upside thrust, or do we see the beginning of a new sell-off? And at the moment, there's quite a bit of uncertainty. 57.50 is still that key level to break. And on WTI, much the same picture, of course. We still have the downside target of $37 hanging over us. That's nearly 30% downside. And we do have a new downside target of 51.17 in the short term. So if we look at heating oil, we see a similar picture. We're below the cloud as well. US Natgas also short-term below the cloud with a downside target of 308. So we're just seeing a bit of a sell-off in the energy mix generally, and RBOB much the same. Coal at 65.60, just struggling to get above this high 60s level. We needed $70 really or higher to break these downside targets into the mid 50s and even worse the mid 40s, and we're seeing that on the long-term chart. That would only be negated if we can trade above the levels where those columns were first given. Emissions bearish below the medium and long-term chart. And looking at front month MBP, we're seeing a little bit of a recovery this morning, but bearish on all three timeframes really. The long-term chart's still just holding on, I guess. And TTF again bearish, but up quite strongly this morning, so that's quite interesting as well. Looking at the dollar index, we see here that we're below the cloud here. So US dollar is just showing some short and medium term strength, long term still strong, but we've got a bit of a tussle going on here. Do we activate an upside target to 5% upside, or activate this downside target to 2.5% downside? So just a bit of uncertainty there in the short term, and the euro just gaining a little bit of strength as a result. We've got a new upside target of 109, not yet activated, but we do have this 102 target that is activated, and lots of downside targets in the medium and short term, so that's pretty bearish. Sterling recovering quite strongly this week. We're seeing already just starting to break to new highs. We've got 129.42 against the US dollar activated, so we're just seeing sterling just putting in some strength recovery, but the long term and medium term targets are still there to the downside. We see the recovery against the euro quite strong as well, so that's having an impact. Taking a look at gas, so looking at the OTC markets now, we see here we'll start with front month MBP, a bit of a recovery today, just seeing the short-term chart just on the turn there, 39.62. Of course, if we want to look at that closer, we can go right in on the chart. So we'd go to Trayport screen, update a chart, take a 1-minute chart of MBP, and we just press the T key on our system and we see that 39.25. If we still got these downside targets hanging over us, the 35.55 and 36.75. We just go to shorter term. We are seeing some upside potential, but those longer term the downside targets still hanging over us. So MBP, quite a mixed picture there. The winter summer seasons, we're seeing that's just trying to make a transition as well, but on the short term chart, but it's still pretty bearish. And the prompt market day ahead, within day, we're seeing a little bit of recovery this morning, but below the cloud. And day ahead much the same. Looking at TTF high cow, we start with the front month, looking quite again just putting in a bit of a strength this morning. Looking at that short-term chart, we see these upside targets activated 16.15 and 16.21, but we do have this downside target of 14 and 14.76 hanging right over us. So the short term is still pretty bearish, but we do have some signs of a bit of a recovery. Take a look at your 1-minute charts for any updates there. Winter summer, quite a strong recovery over the last few days, and we're looking at the prompt, we're seeing that as well. NCG still looking pretty bearish, as is Gazprom, so German gas just not looking as any signs of recovery. Taking a look at power markets, we start with German power. Turning down this morning, just really stuck in this range between 28 and 31 euros. So it's trading sideways at the moment. If we take a look at the 1 minute chart in Updater, again fed by Trayport, press the T key, and we see here that we do have a bit of a mixed picture. And at the moment, no clear direction. We've got this downside target on the very short term of 29.15, so that's 2% downside, but not a lot of targets. We'd like to see multiple targets to give us a real clue as to what's going to happen. So it's just waiting for the break out of that range, really, forget the next direction on German power. Looking at quarters, much the same picture. Looking at months, again, just holding on there. French power, just trying to make a short-term recovery, as is the quarters and the months as well. So we're seeing that. And Dutch power just struggling to get back above the cloud in the short term. Italian power, we're seeing here a little bit of a recovery. And then Spanish power still holding on to its short-term strength. That's it for today. Keep an eye on that crude oil chart. This is what's going to drive energy prices, of course. Looks like we're heading lower this week. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.